Alright, what's up everyone? Op Soldier here. So today, I wanted to just quickly talk about, well, just a few things today. Obviously the new announcement for MK12 was just talked about, today, or if I post this a little bit later, last few days. The other thing too is that we got an announcement that Mortal Kombat 11 is going to get one more showcase on EVO, which is both good and bad. I think it's good in my personal opinion just because now this means that MK12 has time to breathe. Basically, we don't have to like the problem we're having right now with Street Fighter 6, or at least in my mind, is like if I want to compete for Street Fighter 6, I'm gonna have 3 months to compete, because how it's gonna work is it's gonna be released in June, and then September at the latest is gonna be when EVO, when we start competing on big events like EVO. So at least with this, MK is going to have some time to breathe. Obviously, I'm going to start posting more videos about MK12, as we get more content and things like that. But today is actually more of a personal video between me and just people who love playing fighting games or love competing in fighting games. Obviously, I have, an audience that they only like competing, or they only like playing the MK games for fun, right? I'm not talking about this particular group of players strictly just because I've never really viewed fighting games that way anyway. Like, I love fighting games, they make me happy, I enjoy them, but the thing is, the only reason why I really like fighting games is because of the really complex parts of them. That's actually why I sit down and I watch these long ass tournaments all day, or I ask questions and like try to figure out and look at my matches. Like, I know there's a lot of people don't do that, or that's another reason why I didn't quit. I've had this thumb problem for a while now, and I didn't quit after EVO. Instead, what I went ahead and did is I got a hitbox. I got this nice hitbox here, and I got it because I wanted to continue playing fighting games because I love fighting games. Excuse my little wear here. It's just I just got back from work, but yeah, and that's just a little bit of a rundown of where I've been for the past few months. I've actually been working a different job unrelated to this, so that's another reason why I haven't been around. But today I wanted to quickly, well, not quickly, but I wanted to talk a long kind of discussion between me and you personally about just, if you're competing in fighting games, a realization that you kind of have to go through. Like, you definitely have to go through this realization. If you don't go through this realization, in my personal opinion, you'll probably never get good at fighting games. Like, you'll never like actually improve and like learn and become the best fighting game player you could possibly be. So what is that realization? Well, here's the first thing. When you pick your character on the character select screen, you pick them because they're cool, right? Or you pick them because you've always played them, right? Or you pick them because they fit your play style. Those are the general reasons why people play characters, or why people even pick up certain fighting games at all, right? Well, the realization you need to come to at some point is that you have to play top tier. Now, why is this has been more of a controversial thing in the last few years of fighting games, because as fighting games get more fleshed out, characters get more balanced. For example, like, in older games, right, if Kano was top tier, Katana would have no chance against Kano. But because of hitbox issues, Katana has a chance against Kano, and she moves up a little bit of, a few tiers against Kano specifically, right? But if I take Katana and I pit her against Cabal, or I pit her against, Fujin, like all these other characters that have way better tools than Katana, Katana's going to struggle to keep the pace, and that's why you don't see Katana players outside of someone like Foxy, who's a very, very talented fighting game player. The reason why it's important that you play top tiers is for the reason I basically just mentioned. You could be, a decent player, right? But the thing is, it's almost like you have a bunch of points. I think Brian F's talked about this before. You have some points in teching, throws, defense. You have some points in applying pressure or reading your opponent, offense. The problem is, when you take these points and you play against players that are clearly better than you or way better than you, and they're playing top tier characters, now you have two things you have to focus on. You have to focus on getting better than your opponent, and you have to focus on beating the character that your opponent is playing. This is one of the main reasons why when I heard MK11 was being announced, I shit you not, when I heard MK11 was being announced, I launched the game, and then I remembered Fujin, and then I closed the application. Like, I straight up did that. I just launched it, and I was like, oh, Fujin, close the application. Because I realized over time, yes, at some point, I could beat Rewind. But am I going to beat Rewind's Fujin? No, I'm not going to beat his Fujin, at least not at the state I'm in right now. And so, you know, I took a day to kind of think about it and think about, like, you know, fighting games and just, like, how we interact against other players and how we improve. And what I kind of slowly realized is that the reason why when I launched the game and I remembered Fujin, I closed the application, is because the characters that I play against Fujin are not going to do very well against him. So for example, I've made the argument forever that Katana can jump at Fujin, but the thing is, these top players aren't gonna let you jump at them. They're gonna find ways around you trying to apply pressure through a linear option, which is jumping. So you can't be linear against players that are very good. So that's gonna be an issue, right? Another thing, you know, I noticed was like, okay, you know, I used to play Noob and I thought Noob would be a good solution. But the problem is, players like Ninja Killa have been shown to lame out characters like Noob because Noob has bad movement and his full screen presence isn't there. So see what I'm getting at? My point is, like, you can't play characters that you want to play and then just expect to beat these top tier players. Does that mean that you can't beat them? No, what that means is that you have to relook how you play fighting games. You have to ask yourself, how can I deal with these characters when a top tier player is playing them? So it's not just how can I deal with them, right? Because against the Joe Schmo or against even above average Fujin, I can beat them with Katana because my fundamentals are good in MK11. They're very good. But the problem is, against someone like Rewind playing Fujin, that's not going to happen because I have to deal with all of Fujin's tools, where Fujin beats Katana pretty much everywhere except like mid-range to jump range. And then I have to deal with the player behind the tools, which is Rewind, right? So honestly, like, that doesn't mean I can't compete. What that just means is that as a player, I need to look at the characters I'm playing and ask myself, I should play characters that can compete with the tools that the other players playing. Then we can focus on the mind games between me and someone like Rewind, or me and someone like, you know, Sonic Fox, whoever these top players are. So that's the mindset you have to go into with when you're playing a fighting game. You have to go in with the mindset that I need to play top tier characters, or at least have a top tier character that deals with a lot of characters. So then when I get put in a situation where I'm clearly playing someone better than me, clearly, like they're clearly better, or they're just naturally more gifted or whatever, I don't have to worry about the interaction between the characters. I have to worry more about the interaction between me and my opponent, right? So why do I say all this? Well, I say all this because there are so many fighting games coming out in the recent months, or in the current months. We're going to have Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. We're also going to have MK12, apparently. We're going to have Street Fighter 6. We're going to have netcode for Dragon Ball FighterZ, crossplay for KOF 15. You need to go in, if you want to get good at fighting games, if you want to top, if you want to compete in offlines, and I've said this before also, offline majors are the only scholar in fighting games, like the only like scholarship, or not scholarship, only degree that you can get in fighting games. It's the only like actual like degree, like to show that you know what you're doing and show that you're successful players when you play players competitively offline and beat them consistently, or get into top 8s. That means you know what you're doing, you have some consistency. So clearly, with all these games coming out, I don't want you guys making the same mistake that so many players make, where they just pick the character they like playing, and then the character's clearly not good within a few months, and then now they're stuck with that character, and now their fundamentals come from that character. Now, am I saying that you'll be able to know who the top tier characters are right away? No, but what I do think is that you should look at matchups, and you should really, really consider what characters are going to be able to deal with some of the matchup issues you might have when you start playing the game. This is extremely important, just strictly based off the fact that, it will just make you a better player. It's almost like the crack for Street Fighter 6. Like, whoever has the cracked beta is going to be a better player. They're just going to have more time with the game. So it's kind of the same thing with this. Like, if you pick a character that's not going to have too many struggles at first, you're going to be able to focus more on the game and less on the matchups, the bad matchups between your character and your opponent's character. Because then that way you get more time to focus on the mind games and like the actual fundamentals of the fighting game. So long story short, I'm definitely picking like 3 completely different characters than the characters I'm playing right now, because the characters I'm playing right now do not deal with the top 5. So if I were to come back and play MK11 competitively, which I am considering, or have been considering, despite I said I wasn't going to play it anymore, this announcement has changed completely everything. But despite all of that, like with that known, I'm definitely going to pick certain characters to deal with the top 5 in a way that I know consistently they will deal with the top 5. So for example, just to kind of close out on this, what does that mean exactly? Because I feel like sometimes people don't understand what that means, right? So we can kind of close with that. What that means is that a character like Sub-Zero, right, it clearly has better neutral than most characters. It's got the ice ball, it's got the overhead low. He's got a lot of ways that stops you from being able to establish, you know, any type of neutral game in Mortal Kombat 11, while also being able to break the strike throw rule, right? So clearly, right, if I go up against Sub-Zero with Katana, that is not going to work, because Sub-Zero is going to zone her out, and then when she gets in, she might get some unbreakable damage. That's some benefit that she gets. But Sub-Zero is going to 50-50 her while she's strike throwing him to mid-screen, where he can throw fireballs again, right? And he can freeze you and get a full combo compared to your fan toss that does like 6%, right? So what is the solution? Or 3% actually, I think it's less than that. But what is the solution? The solution is to pick a character that when they get on Sub-Zero, they get to apply their pressure, or they get to do so much unbreakable damage that Sub-Zero has to reconsider his 50-50 options, right? He's got to get in a more strike throw situation, so then that way the character can't do mass amounts of damage, right? So this would be characters like Jackie Briggs, Cabal, also characters that can jump at sub are very good options too, because then they don't have to deal with the slide in his ice ball. So yeah, this would be characters like, you know, Jackie Briggs, what do you call it, Cabal, Kano's got good pressure, and also Sub-Zero can't duck his spit, and then also Spawn. These are all good characters that deal with Sub-Zero, right? But a character like Noob Saibot or Katana, or who else was I playing? Melina, like they're not characters that are going to deal with Sub-Zero well. So going in the 4th year into Mortal Kombat 11, it would be a massive mistake playing a character that is not the characters I mentioned that can deal with Sub-Zero's issues. And it's just simply because if I go against Rewind or Scorpion Prox or any of these high-level players, it would be a complete mistake to play those characters. I would be literally just throwing my money into Evo, and I would just be burning a hole in my wallet. So just have this thought going into the future of fighting games. Obviously, again, I want to stress this so much because I feel like a lot of people are going to blow me up here. We don't know what the top characters are, right? But you can make a very good educated guess on some of the problems you might have with the game as you continue to play it, you know, within a month or two, right? I'm pretty sure you'll be able to kind of get a better idea on how to deal with those issues. I just think it's even worse that players are deciding to play the characters they want to play when they have all the knowledge they can have with Mortal Kombat 11. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. This is, I feel like, probably one of the most important videos I could ever make about fighting games, and hopefully you guys learned something. I definitely learned something in the last few years, you know, just thinking about it today. This literally came up, you know, probably in the last few days when Mortal Kombat 11 was announced. So hey, I mean, a lot of people said that Mortal Kombat 11 being, you know, released and lasting this long was not very good, but this is a positive light for me, because as long as I'm concerned, I'm going to carry this mindset throughout fighting games probably for a long time now. So anyway, you guys have fun playing fighting games, have a good fight, and I'll see you guys later.